Pops, and welcome to another Saturday morning cartoons with Pops Batman animated series. We are on the 12th and 13 episodes. I lumped these two together because they are uncharacteristic in that the stereotype of the Batman is, fighting a crazy criminal, psychotic criminal, Joker, Riddler, Penguin, whatever. And the series here pauses after a Joker episode. Actually, we get a couple, and then we have Joker again. But the first one is called Appointment in Crime Alley. The second one is called POV. And they both really represent different dynamics to why Batman is among the most popular of all of the superheroes, why he has stood the test of time, and that it's more than a dude dressing up as a bat and fighting a bunch of crazy people. There's a lot of other elements that are brought into it. And one of the things that you'll find, especially with some of the comic books, is some of the best ones really also include elements, issues before or after big stories, or maybe after something like that. They'll have these stories where you have this grounded, real life sort of feel and conflict in the Batman universe, whether it be with the Gotham police or whether it be with just run-of-the-mill thug, or in this case, Rolland Daggett, who returns again. He's basically like this, evil billionaire in Gotham. And here he is working with a guy called Nitro. He's out on parole. He's basically an arsonist, and he's basically being hired to set up a series of explosions, destroying these buildings, while Daggett is giving a speech. So he'll be somewhere else when all of this shakes down. The perfect alibi, right? And we see all of this sort of being worked out. We see what's happening. Here's the quick little screenshot of one of the scenes with Daggett here in the center. And you know that basically there's something going on with Daggett. Bruce doesn't quite know what's going on. He basically is just, he's working out, he's exercising. And then Alfred, of course, says, you're going to be late for an appointment. And he goes, well, I've never been late. Now he's on his way as Batman in the Batmobile, racing across town. And there's a girl that runs right out in front of him. Right. And then there's men that are going to hurt a mother, things like that. So Batman's got to do his thing. He's, the job is more important than his appointment. Right. But we cut to Leslie Thompkins. Leslie Thompkins, this is really her backstory, her origin in all of this and how she fits in to the Batman lore for the animated series. And that is, she's like, well, he's never late. Like, how could he be late? And then she runs into Nitro and these guys setting up these explosives. She basically stumbles across Daggett's plan, right? Because they're basically doing this in this area of town, this crime alley area of town. And by the time Batman gets there to meet Leslie, she's missing. We don't know where she is, right? Obviously, Daggett's men's got her. Batman doesn't know that yet. Now, Batman sees lights, knows there's an incident with a hostage. So he's got to go deal with that. And when he does, he finds out this person that's taken a hostage has been wronged by Daggett as well. So we keep doubling down. Batman's figuring out through some of the dialogue that, something really here is not right. Regular people are being wronged. He doesn't quite know exactly how to embrace what his role as Batman should be. And this guy doesn't really know what he's doing with a gun, and the gunfire goes off, and basically everyone starts to fall, and Batman saves everyone. It's kind of an interesting rescue as well, because everyone basically is under the cape at one point. You can see how everyone gets saved. And by the time Batman shows up, he's basically playing detective, and he gets to Leslie's apartment. And I like the fact that this is more of a slow and methodical build along the way, compared to sort of like these action sequences. Like we talked about the roller coaster chase with the Joker, and Joker's throwing explosive Cupid dolls at him and things like that. We see him in the Batwing, grabbing a guy and basically trying to get information out of him before dropping in a pool. It's like, where this one's a little more like flashlight. These are flashlight moments, right? Batman trying to find a clue, Batman piecing the puzzle together. And he runs across Leslie's book of memories. And this was very crucial to her story, because you really start to understand who she is. Now, we don't get told who she is. We see this as the scene here, and it says Park Row resident Dr. Leslie Thompkins comforts Bruce Wayne, victim's son. So right away we know who Leslie is. Leslie is the surrogate mom who now is entrusted to take care of Bruce after the events in Crime Alley when his parents were murdered. So he's there, he's piecing this together, and we cut to, well, there's a witness, right? We're seeing somebody, but we also cut to a timer and a bomb where Leslie is tied up. There's a bomb getting ready to go off, and Daggett checking his watch because he's going to speak, right? We know this bomb, this explosion's coming, right? Now, Batman's continuing on the chase. He's piecing this together, and of course, and then there's a runaway streetcar. Now, this is probably the best action sequence of this episode, and it was really interesting that Batman uses the Batmobile in a different way. So he's trying to jump on board to figure out, oh well, the driver's passed out, so he doesn't know how to stop it. He runs back into the Batmobile. People think he's leaving, but he basically jets in front of it and does a reverse thrust to stop this trolley, right? This massive trolley is caravanning out of control. And then Batman finds Crocker and Nitro, the two guys that are hired by Daggett to do all of this. Crocker demands to know, basically just kind of interrogates, where's Leslie, right? And Leslie, of course, is right there, embracing for the blast. And then, of course, Batman stops, and Leslie explains what's going to happen next. And then Daggett's training. He's got this great speech all laid out about progress. And it's not about being for the weak or the strong. We can't allow our underclass to hinder us from building a better tomorrow. Talk about just horrible ivory tower elitist nonsense. This is literally like the crony capitalist type speech. Then, of course, just as planned, the explosions go off, buildings are destroyed. Daggett shows up. There's fire everywhere. The press are sticking cameras and microphones right in Daggett's face. Like, oh my gosh. He starts talking about the value of life. And then Batman's like, oh yeah, right. You don't value life. No one values life like you. I defused the bomb at the hotel. The explosion destroyed only a condemned building. And he drops Nitro and Crocker, the two thugs right there. And once they confess, you're finished. But Daggett doesn't even allow any of that. Daggett is a really good foil for Batman because he's not really like the mass criminal that gets shunted away to Arkham. No. He's a politician, a corrupt, greedy man. He's not a politician, but he plays politics is what I meant to say. Anyway, it's about he turns it around basically. Oh, you police, get these guys. These are the ones who are doing this or whatever. And Batman just leans in and just like, I'm going to get you, but he knows he can't get him, right? And then he just Daggett just says, excuse me. Well, Leslie's there and she lets him go. She says, let it go. And she's the voice of reason, kind of like an Alfred would be, right? And then we cut to the final shot. And final shot is this emotional reflection where Batman drops the roses. Leslie's hugging and kneeling Batman. And it's a crossfade, with that grieving, devastated photo that we saw earlier. It is, it's great. It really is great because it does really remind us of what his motivation is during all this. You get the man behind the mask look here with the show. It's fantastic. And then we follow up really kind of an episode that actually is quite famous for not having a lot of Batman in it, to be honest. So this one is the debut, I believe, of Renee Montoya. She's created for this show, similar to the way Harley Quinn was. This one's called Point of View because you have an incident, right? We have basically a criminal bust that's gone awry, and Detective Bullock is there, and we're having this interrogation with Bullock, Montoya, and this young kid named Wilkes, right? They're talking about being suspended. They're talking about being, whatever. Montoya is like, no, we got to find the truth. And she wants to clear her name. And all of this stuff is about trying to explain what actually happened, and us, the audience, piecing this together. And Montoya and Wilkes were supposed to show up, but Bullock went in headstrong into this bust. And you've got hours and hours of man hours, police man hours. You also have $2 million of actual cash that's on the line with one of these stakeout, these like baiting the criminals to sort of scenarios, right? And you have all of these flashbacks of what's actually happening. And, Bullock blames Batman. He says Montoya and Wilkes were late, and she's just mad, right? And he says that, Batman made this loud noise. The thugs knew what to do, but it's Bullock who fights him off, but the fire gets started. And there's something that happens that Batman has to be saved. And he says, Bullock says, yeah, lucky I was there to save his butt. Like, it's so over the top, right? And Gordon is just like, he's in the room as like, kind of like the liaison. He's like, this is ridiculous, right? And Wilkes is the next up, and he talks about how they're not late. And he recounts a story about how this guy is about to get the jump on Batman. And basically the internal affairs guy is just completely being a jerk. Basically, he's explaining Batman saving his butt, right? And Gordon, again, is always having to jump in and defend all of the officers, including Bullock. Right. But there's very little Batman. Batman just has these quick cuts in this flashback sequence. There's not a lot here. And then finally we get to Montoya. Montoya starts showing. So if we finally get to Montoya, when Montoya actually gives out like actual clues to what's going on, a bigger picture here, and talks about this explosion and that she was actually saved by Batman. Like, it's more than just he was there and whatever Bullock said. Sorry, I got to get to the right picture. She was actually saved. So Batman's there and saves her, but the criminals get away. And she refers to this term, Hathcock. And basically everyone is told they have to turn in their badges. So she heard the word doc. She heard the term Hathcock. And she's, depressed and sad. It centers around her. This is basically Renee Montoya's backstory or origin. In a way, not really an origin, but it definitely is her origin in the grand scheme of the Batman universe for the animated show. Anyway, she finds this warehouse because she starts thinking about Doc, D-O-C-K, not D-O-C, and starts to realize, Gotham Harbor. And sure enough, there's a building called Hathcock, and she decides to go in, no call for help. And inside, there's a captured Batman, right? They have a utility belt, and they're messing. There's a character called Driller, voiced by Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman's done a couple of voices, by the way. This is his second one. And Batman is like doing this, basically he's interrogating more. He's interrogating more them while they're tinkering with his belt. Where's the boss? He's like, anyway, they point him out, and then he's like, okay, that's all I want to know. And Batman just leaps away, like he's safe. He just gets out. He was just trying to get information because that's all I wanted to know. And Montoya and Batman are taking out the thugs, and you see this boss running around and that kind of thing. And Montoya is kicking butt, man. She's doing her own. It's like girl power. Like, we hear all this stuff about we don't have strong women. Where Renee Montoya's fighting along Batman, man. She's pulling her weight. The boss tries to escape, and Driller tries to run over Bats with a forklift, and they struggle and fight. And then he's going after the boss on this forklift, right? And then ultimately, there's a ship that is going to crash, and Montoya is involved as well. And she uses this crane to catch him. Right, this crane comes in, catches him, right? And in doing so, Batman's approval. They get the Sting money back. Gordon's really proud. He basically just get this internal affairs jerk out of here. And Montoya gets the credit. And all she does is talk about team and team effort. And Bullock just gets mad and says things, right? So we have, and I know I talked really long about both episodes, but what I want to do is I want everybody to understand why this is such a big deal. 30 years is over 30 years. There's this came out in 93. So this technically is 30 years ago. Because this really represents a lot of why we read the comic books. This is what we read about. We read about, sure, there'd be 3-issue story, a 4-issue story where he'd fight with one of the main villains, right, the Rogue Gallery. And then you'd have like a 2-parter or something like that with Batman fighting regular criminals or a boss in a mafia or someone who stole a bunch of money. You have to do with the GPD and Gordon, crime solving, him being a detective. This is the element that this show handled so well. It juggled so many of these elements so perfectly. And this is what we're all thirsty for. This is what we're all clamoring for when we talk about we want a real Batman. We want a true, real Batman to the mythology and the lore of the DC Comics and the animated series. And this is why we think this is the best interpretation, because it has all of these great elements. They introduce new characters. They introduce strong characters that have something to say. And nothing is nice and clean and neat. Batman has problems at times. Batman runs into conflict at times. He gets saved by others, and others are having moments where they can step up and be heroic and do great things as well. So, you guys tell me what you think. I'm loving revisiting this show. If you're not, go back to the playlist, catch up on a few of the others. It's just great. Next up, we'll do an episode about the Clock King. We introduce another character, another villain in the Rogues Gallery called the Clock King. And then we do a Joker episode. So there's lots of stuff coming up. Batman Animated Series, great. Saturday morning cartoons with Pops. Thank you for being with me and spending time. I'm loving this very much. I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys take care. Until next time.